Have you ever had a day that started as the best of your life and ended as the worst? A day when everything you thought was secure crumbled in a single conversation? What would you do if your boss replaced you with artificial intelligence on the same day your fiancé proposed? Hey everyone, I'm Haley Dawson, and this is exactly what happened to me. Today I want to share a story about betrayal, resilience, and discovering that sometimes your biggest setback becomes your greatest comeback. If you're curious about how I turned my darkest professional moment into the foundation of something extraordinary, you'll want to stick around for this story. Hit that like button if you've ever felt undervalued at work. Trust me, you're not alone. So let me take you back to that morning when I thought I had everything figured out. The diamond caught the morning light streaming through my apartment window, casting tiny rainbows across the coffee table. Grant Mitchell had proposed just 12 hours ago, and I still couldn't stop staring at the ring. At 28, everything seemed to be falling into place. My career as senior brand strategist at Redmond & Co. was thriving, and now this. "You're going to be late," Grant called from the kitchen, his voice carrying that familiar protective tone. He appeared with my travel mug, already knowing I'd take my coffee black with a splash of vanilla. "Worth it," I said, holding up my hand to catch another rainbow. "I can't believe this is real." "Believe it." "And Haley?" He kissed my forehead. "Tonight we celebrate properly. That little Italian place you love." He paused, adjusting his tie in the hallway mirror, always conscious of appearances. "Just promise me you won't work late tonight. We have plans to make, a future to secure." The word secure carried weight with Grant. It always had. I gathered my portfolio, the same leather case that had carried my presentation to land the Bradford account 6 months ago. Redmond & Co. had been my home for 5 years, and today felt like the beginning of everything I'd worked toward. The elevator to the 32nd floor hummed its familiar tune. But as the doors opened, something felt different. The usual morning chatter was replaced by an odd silence, and Preston Gates himself stood waiting in the lobby. "Haley," his smile seemed colder than usual, "my office. Now." Preston's corner office overlooked downtown Chicago, but today the view felt more like a precipice than a promise. He gestured to the chair across from his mahogany desk, the same chair where I'd sat during my promotion review just 3 months ago. "Coffee?" he offered, though his assistant had already poured 2 cups. "Thank you." I accepted the mug, my engagement ring clicking against the ceramic. "Preston, if this is about the Fletcher account revisions, I have new concepts ready. This isn't about Fletcher." He opened a tablet, revealing a sleek interface I'd never seen before. "Meet Evelyn." The screen displayed what looked like a sophisticated chatbot, but as Preston demonstrated, it began generating brand strategies, taglines, and campaign concepts at lightning speed. Each output was polished, professional, and eerily similar to work I'd seen around the office. "She's been learning from our best strategists for 8 months, Preston explained, his fingers dancing across the tablet. "Your work, specifically, provided some of her core training data." My coffee suddenly tasted bitter. "My work? Preston, did anyone think to mention this to me? There are intellectual property considerations, all covered in your employment agreement. Section 12 covers work product and derivative applications." His tone was matter-of-fact, but something flickered in his eyes. "Legal cleared everything months ago." The casual dismissal stung more than the legality. "What exactly are you saying?" "Evelyn can produce what you produce, Haley. Faster, cheaper, without vacation days or personal drama." His eyes flicked to my ring. "We're entering the final phase of AI integration." The words hung in the air like smoke from a fire I couldn't yet see. "You're letting me go." The words escaped my lips before my brain could process them fully. It wasn't a question, Preston's expression had already confirmed my worst fear. "We're restructuring. Evelyn will handle strategic development moving forward." He slid a manila envelope across the desk. "Your severance package is generous. Legal insists on a non-compete clause, but it's standard." I stared at the envelope without touching it. "Preston, I've given you 5 years. The Bradford account alone brought in $2 million last quarter. The Fletcher campaign increased their market share by 18%, and Evelyn can do the same work in minutes, not weeks. He leaned back in his leather chair. This isn't personal, Haley. It's evolution. Evolution? I laughed, though nothing felt funny. I trained her, didn't I? All those late nights, all those strategy sessions you recorded for quality purposes, you were feeding my ideas to a machine. Preston's silence confirmed everything. I stood, leaving the envelope untouched. When do you want me gone? Security will escort you out in an hour. HR has already prepared your belongings. As I walked toward the door, Preston called out, Haley? Congratulations on your engagement. I heard the news made it around the office pretty quickly. He paused, his business mask slipping slightly. For what it's worth, this decision wasn't easy. But the board. The timing wasn't coincidental. He'd known exactly when to deliver this blow, even if he didn't entirely like doing it. The elevator ride down felt longer than the 5 years I'd spent riding it up. 32 floors of memories, late-night brainstorming sessions, celebratory drinks after landing major accounts, the slow climb from junior strategist to senior position. All reduced to a cardboard box and a security escort. Other employees averted their eyes as I passed. Some looked sympathetic. Others seemed relieved it wasn't them. The receptionist, Maria, mouthed, I'm sorry, as the security guard guided me toward the exit. Ms. Dawson, the guard said softly, for what it's worth, everyone knows you built half the campaigns that made this place what it is. Outside, Chicago's October wind cut through my blazer. I sat on a bench across from the Redmond & Co. building, staring up at the 32nd floor where my life had just imploded. My phone buzzed, a text from Grant. How's your day going, future Mrs. Mitchell? I started typing, got fired, then deleted it. Started typing, bad day, then deleted that too. Finally settled on, we need to talk. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Everything okay? Before I could respond, another notification popped up. LinkedIn, Preston Gates posted an update about Redmond & Co.'s innovative AI integration. The post included a photo of Evelyn's interface and a quote. The future of brand strategy is here. Somehow, being replaced hurt less than being erased. Grant's face shifted through 3 distinct expressions as I explained, confusion, concern, and something that looked uncomfortably like calculation. So you're unemployed, he said finally, setting down his wine glass. Rossetti's, our favorite Italian restaurant, suddenly felt less romantic and more like a business meeting. Temporarily. I'll find something else. I twisted my engagement ring, a nervous habit I developed in the past 6 hours. The severance will hold us over for a few months. A few months? Grant leaned forward, his voice tight with worry rather than judgment. Haley, we just got engaged. We're supposed to be planning a wedding, looking at houses. I'm scared about what this means for us. This changes nothing. But even as I said it, I felt the ground shifting beneath us. I'm good at what I do, Grant. Some other agency will. Will they? When Preston's blackballed you with that non-compete? He reached for his wine, hands slightly trembling. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's time to think about something more predictable. My firm is always looking for administrative support. Administrative support? The words hit like a slap. I'm a senior brand strategist, not a secretary. You were a senior brand strategist. Now you're someone who needs stability. His voice cracked slightly. I can't handle another upheaval, Haley. Not right now. What if I started my own agency? The word surprised me as much as they surprised him. Grant nearly choked on his drink. With what capital? What clients? Haley, you just got fired from the only industry job you've ever had. I pulled my hand away, the diamond catching the restaurant's dim lighting one last time before I slipped it off my finger. Here's the thing about being difficult, Grant. It usually means you're not willing to settle. Haley, I'm not breaking up with you. Not yet. I placed the ring on the table between us. But I'm not marrying someone who sees my ambition as a problem to be managed. The ring sat there like a tiny, expensive question mark. My apartment felt different without the ring, smaller somehow, as if removing that one piece of jewelry had shrunk my entire world. Grant had taken the ring when he left, promising to give me space to think clearly, but his tone suggested he thought my thinking was already compromised. I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop, something I'd been avoiding all day. My inbox was a graveyard of corporate communications: access revoked, benefits terminated, company equipment return scheduled. But buried among the automated messages was something unexpected. An email from Ben Turner, owner of Turner Leather Goods. We'd worked together on a heritage brand campaign 8 months ago. Haley, heard the news through the grapevine. I know you can't work for competitors right now, but if you ever want to go independent, I've got a project that could use your touch. Real people, real stories. The kind of thing machines can't understand. Call me. I stared at the message for 20 minutes. Ben Turner was known for 2 things. Absolute loyalty to people who earned his trust, and an uncanny ability to spot authenticity from a mile away. His grandfather had started Turner Leather in 1952, and Ben fought every day to preserve its soul while growing its market share. Before I could talk myself out of it, I picked up my phone. My hand trembled slightly, not from confidence, but from pure, stubborn rage. They thought I was replaceable. I'd show them exactly what they'd lost. Ben? It's Haley Dawson. About that project. I was wondering if you'd call tonight or tomorrow morning. Either way, I had a good feeling about your timing. Maybe anger was just another word for courage. Ben Turner's workshop smelled like leather and possibility. Located in a converted warehouse on the north side, it was everything Redmond & Co.'s gleaming office wasn't: authentic, worn, real. My grandfather would have hated everything about modern marketing, Ben said, running his hands over a half-finished handbag. But he would have loved you. The project was unlike anything I'd worked on at Redmond. Ben wanted to launch a line of women's briefcases, but every agency he'd consulted treated his family heritage like a dusty relic instead of a competitive advantage. They keep showing me campaigns about disrupting professional accessories, he said, making air quotes. But my customers don't want disruption. They want something their granddaughters will fight over in 50 years. I spent 3 hours in that workshop, listening to Ben talk about his grandfather's immigrant journey, watching him demonstrate traditional stitching techniques, understanding how each piece carried forward a story that started decades before either of us was born. I can't pay Redmond & Co. rates, Ben warned as I prepared to leave. But I can pay enough to get you started, and I promise you something Preston Gates never could. What's that? A client who trusts you to solve problems instead of just execute orders. That night, I registered Dawson & Co. as a sole proprietorship. My business plan fit on 2 pages. My office was my kitchen table, and my confidence was about 60% bravado. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like myself again. 3 weeks into the Turner project, my phone rang at 7 a.m. I recognized Lana Preston's voice immediately. We'd worked together on a local bakery chain expansion while I was at Redmond. Haley, thank God you answered. I need help, and I heard you're freelancing now. Lana's artisan bakery had been a Redmond success story. We'd helped her grow from 3 locations to 12 across the Midwest. But something had gone wrong with their new campaign. They replaced you with some AI system, Lana explained, her voice tight with frustration. The new ads are technically perfect. Beautiful design, clever copy, optimized for every demographic. And they're killing my business. How is that possible? Because they don't understand why people come to artisan bakeries. The AI thinks we're competing with Panera on convenience and price. But my customers don't want fast or cheap, they want their grandmother's wedding cake recipe and the woman who remembers their kids' names. I met Lana at her original location, a cozy corner shop that still smelled like the cinnamon rolls that had made her famous. The current campaign materials were spread across a small table near the window, sleek, modern, and completely soulless. The AI can analyze data, Lana said, but it can't understand that Mrs. Rodriguez has been ordering the same birthday cake for her husband for 7 years, or that the college kids come here to study because we let them nurse one coffee for 3 hours. She was right. The campaigns were optimized for metrics, not moments. What do you need from me? Everything, she said. Save my soul. By December, the pattern was undeniable. Thompson Furniture's family crisis, when their founder passed away, had been handled by Evelyn with generic, celebrating legacy messaging that drove their loyal customers to competitors. Jackson Financial's diversity initiative got reduced to stock photo campaigns that sparked negative social media backlash and client departures. But some had it worse. Miller and Associates, a law firm specializing in immigration cases, nearly faced a state bar investigation when Evelyn's algorithm suggested marketing tactics that violated attorney advertising ethics. Evelyn optimized my practice for skin investment solutions, Dr. Barnes explained during our first meeting. But when a teenager came in crying about acne affecting her confidence, the AI's suggested response was to upsell premium treatments. I lost 3 long-term patients that week who said I'd become just another cosmetic clinic. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Preston's AI had learned to replicate successful campaigns without understanding why they worked. She could copy solutions but couldn't grasp problems. They fed Evelyn all your old work, Ben Turner observed during one of our check-ins, but they only fed her the final products, not the process. She learned your answers without understanding your questions. Dawson & Co. was growing through word of mouth and rescued relationships. I'd moved from my kitchen table to a small office above a coffee shop, hired my first contractor, and started turning away projects that didn't align with our values. The barista downstairs, Nora, had started bringing me free pastries with notes like, "Fuel for changing the world." Apparently my late-night working had become local legend. But success brought new questions. How long before Preston noticed where his lost clients were going? And more importantly, what would he do about it? The answer came sooner than I expected. The answer came on a snowy Thursday in January. I was reviewing campaign concepts for Turner's spring line when my office phone rang. Through my window, I could see Nora, the barista downstairs, sketching in a notebook during her break, something she did every afternoon, always glancing up at my office with what looked like curiosity mixed with admiration. "Haley? It's Preston. We need to talk." His voice carried the same commanding tone that had intimidated me 6 months ago. Today, it just sounded tired. "About what?" "About the fact that 7 of our former clients are now working with you." No small talk, no pretense. I'm not calling to threaten legal action. I'm calling because I want to understand how this happened. I set down my pen and chose my words carefully. Maybe your clients weren't as satisfied with Evelyn as you thought. Evelyn's metrics are excellent. Fast turnaround, cost efficiency, statistically optimized messaging. Statistically optimized for what, Preston? Click-through rates? Brand recall surveys? Or actual human connection? There was a long pause. The clients who left, they're not seeing better results with you. At least, not according to standard metrics. Then why did they leave? Another pause, longer this time. That's what I want to understand. Can we meet? Somewhere neutral. I'm not trying to poach you back. I know that ship has sailed. But I need to understand what we're missing. The snow was falling harder now, each flake catching the streetlight outside my window. Where do you want to meet? That coffee shop below your office. I've heard they make excellent lattes. He'd been watching. The thought should have unsettled me, but instead I felt something close to vindication. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., I said. And Preston? Come alone. Preston looked older than I remembered. More gray at his temples, deeper lines around his eyes. He sat across from me at Café Luna, the same coffee shop where I'd signed my first independent client. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "Nice setup," he said, glancing up toward my office windows. "Cozy. It works." I sipped my latte and waited. This was his meeting. "Evelyn is failing," he said finally. "Not in the ways we can measure. Her outputs are consistently high quality. Her efficiency ratings are off the charts. But our client retention is down 30%, and our new business development has stalled completely. 3 board members are quietly shopping for my replacement. What do your metrics tell you about customer satisfaction?" That's the problem. The metrics say everything should be working. He pulled out his tablet, showing me charts and graphs I recognized from my days at Redmond. Client surveys show satisfaction with deliverables, timeline adherence, cost effectiveness. But they're not renewing contracts. I leaned back in my chair. "Preston, do you remember why you hired me 5 years ago? You had strong portfolio work and good references." "No, that's why you interviewed me. You hired me because during our conversation, I told you about my grandmother's influence on my understanding of brand loyalty. You said it was the first time someone had talked about marketing as relationships instead of transactions." Preston's expression shifted. "I remember. Evelyn learned from my work, but she didn't learn from my grandmother. She can replicate my solutions without understanding why they worked. So what do we do?" The question hung between us like a bridge neither of us was sure we wanted to cross. "You want me to what?" I nearly spilled my coffee. "Come back. Not as an employee, as a partner. We need human insight to guide Evelyn's development." Preston's voice carried a desperation I'd never heard before. "The board is asking questions I can't answer. Why are we losing clients to a one-woman agency working out of a coffee shop? Because that one-woman agency listens to them." "Exactly. So help us listen." He leaned forward, his business pitch persona sliding into place. "Think about it, Haley. Your client base plus our resources. Your understanding plus Evelyn's efficiency. We could build something revolutionary, true human AI collaboration." I watched the snow continue to fall outside, each flake following its own path to the ground. And my current clients? They'd benefit from our expanded capabilities. Better production resources, larger media buys, enhanced analytics. Under the Redmond brand? Under a new brand. Redmond Dawson. Equal partnership. The offer was tempting in ways I hadn't expected. Financial security, resources I couldn't access alone, the chance to influence AI development rather than just compete with it. But something felt wrong about the equation. What happens to the clients I've already committed to? The projects that are purely human-driven? We'd transition them gradually. Show them how AI enhancement can improve their outcomes. And if they don't want AI enhancement? Preston's hesitation told me everything I needed to know. "I need time to think," I said, though my mind was already made up. "Of course. But Haley?" He stood to leave. "Don't take too long. This industry moves fast." It sounded like a timeline, not a deadline. That evening, I called an emergency meeting with my core clients. Ben Turner, Lana Preston, Dr. Barnes, and 3 others gathered in my small office, their faces reflecting the same concern I felt. "Before I tell you about Preston's offer," I said, "I need to know something from your hearts, not your heads. Why did you really come to me?" Ben's voice grew quiet. "Because you understood that my grandfather's story was worth preserving. Not just selling leather, preserving a piece of history." Lana wiped away a tear I hadn't expected. "Because when my daughter was sick last year, you delayed our campaign launch without question. Evelyn would have kept running ads while my world was falling apart." Dr. Barnes leaned forward. "Because you asked me about my worst day, when I had to tell a 19-year-old her mole was melanoma. You helped me show people that early detection isn't about vanity, it's about mothers seeing their children graduate." The room fell silent. These weren't business testimonials, they were confessions of trust. Preston offered me a partnership, I said finally. Equal stake in combining human insight with AI efficiency. Ben shook his head slowly. But we didn't leave Redmond for efficiency, Haley. We left because we stopped feeling human. I looked around the table at these faces, people who'd trusted me with their fears, their dreams, their life's work. 6 months ago, I'd thought success meant climbing higher in someone else's company. Now I realized I'd already built something more valuable than any corporate ladder could offer. You know what? I said, feeling the truth settle into my bones. I think I already have everything I wanted. I just didn't know I wanted it. That's when I knew my answer. The next morning, I met Grant for coffee, our first conversation since the Italian restaurant 3 months ago. He looked good, healthier somehow, as if my absence had lifted a weight he hadn't realized he was carrying. You're considering going back, he said. It wasn't a question. Preston offered me a partnership. Real equity, significant resources, the chance to shape how AI is used in marketing. Grant nodded slowly. It's a good offer. Stable. Respectable. But you're not going to take it. He smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached his eyes. You've changed, Haley. Even in the way you sit, the way you talk about your work. You're not the same person who used to stress about Preston's approval. He was right. Somewhere between getting fired and building Dawson & Co., I'd stopped seeking validation from others and started finding it in my work itself. The ring is in my car, Grant said quietly. I kept thinking you'd want it back, that we'd find our way back to each other. But we've both grown into different people. Different isn't necessarily wrong. No, it's not. But different isn't always compatible. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. For what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've built. And I think you'd be crazy to give it up for anyone else's vision of success. He paused, looking down at his coffee. I just wish I'd been brave enough to see it sooner. We talked for another hour, not about what we'd lost, but about what we'd both discovered. When we hugged goodbye, it felt like closure instead of ending. That afternoon, I called Preston. I can't accept your offer, I told him. Can I ask why? Because building Dawson & Co. taught me something I don't think Evelyn will ever understand. Which is? Preston's voice carried genuine curiosity rather than frustration. That the best solutions come from understanding problems most people don't even know they have. I was walking through Lincoln Park, needing movement to organize my thoughts. Your clients didn't leave because Evelyn's work was bad. They left because it was perfectly, generically good. I'm not following. Ben Turner doesn't need a leather goods campaign. He needs people to understand that buying from him is an act of cultural preservation. Lana doesn't need bakery marketing, she needs people to see her shops as community gathering spaces. Evelyn can't understand the difference because she's optimizing for metrics that don't measure what actually matters to these business owners. Preston was quiet for a long moment. So how do we fix that? You don't. At least, not with AI as the primary driver. I stopped walking, watching a group of kids build a snowman despite the afternoon cold. Preston, what if you've been asking the wrong question? Instead of, how can AI replace human strategists, what if you asked, how can AI help human strategists be more effective? Meaning? Let Evelyn handle data analysis, competitive research, media optimization, all the tasks that support creative decision-making. But keep humans in charge of understanding why someone starts a business, what keeps them up at night, what success actually means to them beyond revenue growth. That's, actually not a terrible idea. It's the only idea that works long-term. Because eventually, every agency will have access to AI that can generate campaigns. The competitive advantage will belong to agencies that can ask the right questions in the first place. And you're not interested in helping us figure that out? I resumed walking, knowing my answer would disappoint him but feeling certain it was right. I'm already figuring it out, Preston. Just not for you. 6 months later, Dawson and Co. had outgrown the coffee shop office. We'd moved to a converted loft space in River North, complete with exposed brick, industrial lighting, and enough room for the team of 6 I'd carefully assembled. Unlike my Redmond days, I hired for curiosity over credentials. Maria, our lead researcher, had a background in anthropology. James, our creative director, had spent 5 years as a small-town newspaper editor. Our newest strategist, Aisha, had previously managed social services for immigrant families. It's like a brain trust for understanding people, Ben Turner observed during a strategy session for his latest product line. Every campaign feels like you've actually lived in your customer's shoes. The Turner leather expansion had exceeded all projections. More importantly, it had attracted attention from other heritage brands looking for agencies that understood the difference between selling products and preserving legacies. Meanwhile, Redmond & Co.'s struggles had become industry gossip. According to Marketing Weekly, they'd lost 40% of their client base in 8 months. Several former employees had reached out, quietly asking about opportunities at Dawson & Company. The irony, Lana said during our monthly check-in, is that Preston's AI probably could help you scale faster than any human team. She was right. But scaling faster wasn't the same as scaling better. That afternoon, I got a call that changed everything. Ms. Dawson? This is Catherine Miller from Innovate Chicago. We'd like to feature Dawson & Co. in our annual showcase of game-changing local businesses. The exposure would be massive. Exactly the kind of visibility that could transform a boutique agency into a major player. What would the feature involve? A panel discussion about the future of human-centered business in an AI-driven world. I almost laughed at the cosmic timing. The Innovate Chicago showcase took place at the Cultural Center, with an audience of entrepreneurs, investors, and business leaders I'd only read about in trade publications. I sat on a panel titled Human Intelligence vs. Artificial Intelligence, the Future of Creative Industries. The other panelists included Preston Gates. The question isn't whether AI will replace human creativity, said the moderator, a tech journalist named Kevin Park. It's how quickly and how completely. Mr. Gates, you've been at the forefront of AI integration in marketing. What's your perspective? Preston looked directly at me before answering. I used to believe AI would make human strategists obsolete. Recent experience has taught me I was asking the wrong question. A murmur rippled through the audience. Ms. Dawson, the moderator continued, your agency has built a reputation for, quote, aggressively human-centered marketing. Some might argue you're fighting a losing battle against technological progress. I thought about my grandmother, about Ben Turner's workshop, about Lana's customers who came for connection as much as cinnamon rolls. Technology progress isn't the enemy, I said. Technological thinking is. When we start treating human complexity as a problem to be solved rather than a reality to be understood, we lose the ability to create anything meaningful. But surely efficiency and scale matter in business? Absolutely. But efficient at what? Scaled toward what end? I gestured toward Preston. Mr. Gates and I have discovered that the most efficient way to lose clients is to give them exactly what they think they want instead of helping them understand what they actually need. Preston nodded. Which is why Redmond & Co. is shifting toward what we're calling AI-assisted human insight rather than AI-driven strategy. He paused, his business instinct still sharp. Though I'll admit, the transition hasn't been without its learning curve and financial implications. After the panel, Preston approached me in the lobby. That was generous, he said, though his eyes were already calculating something. You could have buried us up there. That was honest. I owe you an apology. And probably a consulting fee. Half our new approach came from watching what you built. His smile carried both respect and his old calculating edge. Any interest in a retainer agreement? 6 figures. We're implementing human oversight protocols and could use someone who actually understands the balance. Preston, think about it. No answer needed today. He handed me his card, a new one, I noticed, with Chief Innovation Officer under his name. But Haley? What you've built is impressive. What we could build together would be revolutionary. And profitable. Some things never changed. Preston would always see opportunity where others saw complications. 1 year after the showcase, I was back at Café Luna for a meeting that would complete an unexpected circle. Nora, the barista who'd witnessed my lowest and highest moments, had asked to speak with me during her break. "I've been scared to start my own sustainable fashion line," she said, settling into the chair Preston had once occupied. "But watching you turn getting fired into getting everything you wanted, it made me realize the scariest part isn't failing. It's never trying." She showed me sketches that revealed the same understanding of values over metrics that drove Dawson & Co.'s success. But this time, her story felt different, not like a separate subplot, but like the natural culmination of everything I'd built. The showcase had brought media attention, investor interest, and partnership opportunities. More importantly, it had brought people like Nora who saw possibility where they'd once seen only obstacles. "You know what's funny?" Nora said, reviewing our collaboration agreement. "When I told people I was creating emotionally sustainable fashion, they thought I was crazy. And now? Now 3 major retailers want to discuss distribution, and I have a waiting list of artisans who want to partner with us." I laughed, recognizing the same dynamic we'd seen with Evelyn, except this time, success was attracting people who understood the heart behind the work, not just the metrics. That evening, walking past the Redmond building, I realized something profound. The best revenge against being undervalued wasn't proving them wrong. It was becoming so valuable that their opinions stopped mattering. And more importantly, it was creating a world where other people could discover their own value. Somewhere in this city, the next woman was probably having the worst day of her career, not knowing it was actually the first day of her real life. 2 years later, Dawson & Co. occupied 3 floors of a renovated warehouse in the West Loop. We'd helped launch 47 businesses, saved 12 family-owned companies from closure, and developed a training program that taught other agencies how to implement human-centered AI integration. Nora's sustainable fashion line, Luna Designs, had become our signature success story. Not because it generated the most revenue, but because it demonstrated how deeply understanding your customers' values could create unshakable brand loyalty. "You know what's funny?" Nora said during our quarterly review meeting. "When I first told people I was starting a fashion company with an emphasis on emotional sustainability, they thought I was crazy. And now? Now they're trying to copy the model without understanding the mindset." The conference room erupted in laughter. The same dynamic we'd seen with Evelyn's attempts to replicate human insight without human understanding. "That's the thing about authentic innovation," I said, looking around the table at our team of anthropologists, former journalists, ex-social workers, and creative misfits. "It can't be reverse-engineered because it emerges from who you are, not just what you do." After the meeting, I walked to the window overlooking the Chicago River. The city had changed since my Redmond days, but so had I. The woman who'd been devastated by getting fired would barely recognize the person I'd become, someone who hired based on curiosity, who measured success by impact rather than just income, who'd learned that the best revenge against being undervalued was becoming invaluable. My phone rang. An unknown number with a Boston area code. "Ms. Dawson? This is Patricia Kane from Harvard Business School. Ben Turner suggested I reach out. We're developing a case study about human-AI collaboration in creative industries. Your client Turner mentioned your approach is what other agencies are trying to emulate, but most are missing something fundamental." "What kind of case study?" "How to build sustainable competitive advantage when the rules keep changing. Not just about AI, but about staying human when everything around you is automated." She paused. "Fair warning, we're also documenting the failures, the ongoing struggles. This isn't a success story looking for a tidy ending." I smiled, thinking about tomorrow's challenges waiting on my desk. "Good. Those are the only stories worth telling." I smiled, remembering Preston's original promise that Evelyn could replace what I did, only faster. He'd been right about the faster part. But speed, it turned out, was never the point. I'd be happy to help, I told Dr. Kane. When can we start? Outside my window, the city hummed with the energy of people building, creating, solving problems that mattered to them. Somewhere in that maze of ambition and hope, the next Haley Dawson was probably having the worst day of her career. And discovering it was actually the first day of her real life. So there you have it, how losing everything I thought I wanted led me to everything I actually needed. Sometimes the biggest betrayals become the greatest gifts, and the worst days become the foundation of our best lives. Have you ever been in a situation where losing your job turned out to be the best thing that happened to you? Or maybe you're facing your own Evelyn moment right now, feeling like technology or circumstances are threatening what you've built? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear that their worth can't be automated. Your support means everything to creators like me who believe in the power of human stories over algorithmic content. And hey, if you want more stories about turning professional setbacks into personal comebacks, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Trust me, we're just getting started. Until next time, remember, your heart can't be automated.